The difference between Mamale and Sevev, two different types of godly light.
Rabbi, do you have a booklet?
I do not. I left them on a copy machine. I made copies.
Upstairs?
Most of
You want me to run?
no, it's all right. Most of what we're going to do today is on this piece of paper, so don't worry about it. Okay. I made copies, but I left it there.
I don't mind it, no?
Basi L'Gani. Basi L'Gani Tafshin Yud. Yes, you can find the Rabbi Rebbe's Maamer in there, right? Definitely. I'm sorry.
No, that's right.
I made copies. I just left them on the machine.
Can't like the jeans.
Okay. Kadiskafia Sitra Achu Istalak Yukudekuchabrichu B'chul Almin. When you subdue the Sitra Achu, you bring about a revelation of the light of God that exists in all of the worlds equally, i.e. or Sevev Kol Almin. The light that surrounds the world, the infinite light that's too powerful to be clothed in particular vessels, Kalim, and therefore it expresses itself in an equal way everywhere. The mushal for that in powers of the soul, Ratzon, will, too powerful a power of the soul to be clothed in any particular body. It powers everything you do equally. Right? You move your finger and you think a thought because you want to. Both of them are equally expressions of Ratzon. Right? Whereas moving a finger in the world of Mamale is an expression of the power of movement, which is sophisticated, but not quite as sophisticated as the power of intellect, which is obviously the most important power you have in conscious reality. Right? Okay. Mamale and Sevev. So we said that when we subdue the Sitracha, which is the Aveda of Iskafia, ultimately leading to Ishafka, subduing the Yetzer Hara, ultimately, hopefully producing a transforming of it, that brings about a revelation of this incredibly powerful light, right? Called Sevev. And again, in order to explain Sevev, the Rebbe explained Mamale. We got a little past it, but we'll start there anyway, just because it's been a few days. Amnam, one, I'm not counting that last little line with Or Sevev. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lines up from the bottom of the page. We will go through those 11 lines relatively quickly. The last thing we saw was this idea of Yisra Na'or Shaba Min HaChoshech, the advantage of the light that emerges from the dark, okay, which is what we'll see our Rebbe explain in his first Maamer, which I'll give out to you in a minute as soon as we finish this. Amnam, b'chtei lahamshich or zeh b'chul amin. In order to draw down this level of Or Sevev, this light that exists in all of the worlds, hu al yedei aveda, is through our aveda, ba'avedas abirurim, through the service of rectification, meaning using physical reality and elevating it to its source in godliness. That's birurim, rectifying something. Bebechinas iskafia, we've seen, subduing the Yetzer Hara, v'ishafcha, and transforming. And transforming can both be internal and external. Internal transforming is transforming your Yetzer Hara so that subconscious desire is no longer there. That obviously is a long process and a very difficult process that can be successful in certain things and might not be successful in other things. You will probably never lose your taiva for food, right? But that's good, so you'll eat, right? You probably won't lose a certain taiva relative to the fair gender. That's good. You'll have children. Right? Certain taivas you're not going to lose, right? A taiva for chocolate, you might decide, I don't want chocolate, and you'll do away with your taiva for chocolate over the next, 5 years. Just like a cigarette smoker does away with his taiva for cigarettes. I'm not comparing chocolate to cigarettes, okay? Please do not quote me on that, right? A person can do away with certain subconscious desires, right? Over time, very hard work, right? Okay. A person relative to food can change their relationship with food if they're grossly obese and they lose a lot of weight, so they're just going to put it back unless they change their whole relationship to eating. The discipline they had for the 6 months, 8 months, year, 2 years to lose all that weight, that's great, but at a certain point they'll probably stop and it'll just start going back on again unless they develop a completely different relationship with food. Okay. But to lose the taiva for food, they're not going to lose the taiva for food. Dr. Rebbe did. right? But we're not the Alter Rebbe, because that's tzaddikim, and we're not tzaddikim. Alter Rebbe said he worked very hard to lose. He didn't taste food. He stopped tasting food. He worked on not tasting food. So either you can agree with him or disagree with him as to whether that's a good thing to do, but your position on it is irrelevant. Don't worry, because he did it anyway. He didn't consult you, right? So how do we do it? Iskafi and ishafcha. V'zeu, and this is what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, which we've been learning. Kadiskafia sitra acha. When you subdue the sitra acha, what does that mean? Kasher payil b'avedasa. That when he brings about through his avodah, through his hard work, liyos iskafia sitra acha, transforming the sitra acha, v'ishavcha chashucha l'nahara, and subduing the sitra acha and transforming darkness chashucha l'nahara to light. And again, that can be internal, but that can also be external, using physical reality for godly purpose. Taking something which naturally doesn't reveal God, but use it to reveal God. That's also his hafcha, right? Elevating the physicality. This is the line that we want our Rebbe to explain. Even though the Rebbe's not going to quote the line, he's going to explain what this means. Simple pshat is a greater light emerges from the dark. That's not relative. Right? It's actual, that some higher level of light is revealed from the dark. How that works, we don't know. V'hainu, we'll know when we learn the Rebbe. The kasher choshech nefach la'or, that when the darkness is transformed to light. Now, simply what does that mean when physicality is used as a means to reveal godliness? Hini nasa yisranor. What's brought about is a greater light. Sha'or meir begilui, that this light shines in a revealed way, ad asher ya'ir lamata mamish, until it will actually shine below mamish, down in this world. V'hainu, shenimshach ha'or ba'ofen kezeh, that the light is drawn down in the following way. Now the Rebbe, it seems rather repetitive, but he's using that word oifen to help us. Oifen means a fashion, the way something happens, the fashion of something. Asher oifen hamshachoseh, the way, the fashion of its being drawn down, hu b'chol ha'olam es b'shover, is in all the worlds equally. What's that? Save it. Draw down an infinite godly light into the world. Do you and I see that light? We don't see that light. Does that light affect the world? Absolutely. Is the world a healthier place? Absolutely. No question. Does that necessarily something that I see with my physical eyes? I don't necessarily see it with my physical eyes. It's like you don't necessarily see the protection with your physical eyes that the mezuzah is giving you when you put it on your front door and on the door of every room in your house. But is your room being protected? Is your house being protected? Yes. How? I don't see the protection, but it's there. Right? That's why God told us to put them there. And many, many, many stories of the Rebbe telling people who are going through certain trials and tribulations, fix your mezuzahs, and they fix them to check your mezuzahs. They check the mezuzah. It has to be fixed. They put up the raya, and then whatever the problem was disappears. How does that work? I don't know. But it works. It's not. I mean, we might see the results of it in physicality, but we don't see the actual godliness protecting us. Just know it's there. V'hainu shenim shecha'or. I'm sorry about that. Right. V'zeu. Thank you. V'zeu kadiskafia sitra achu yistalek yukad dekuchabricha b'chulami. And that's the line in Tanya, which we spent the last 25 lines in this Maamer explaining. When you subdue the sitra achu and you overcome a negative desire, and you either don't act upon it, or you contradict it and do that which it is trying to get you not to do, depending on whether or not it wants you to refrain from some positive activity, or it wants you to indulge in some unhealthy activity. It goes out the glory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chul almin. What does that mean? Bechina sa'or, the level of light, shenimshach or hasevev kol almin, that has drawn down the light that surrounds all the worlds, the infinite light that's too powerful to be clothed in the world directly, that the way of it's being drawn down, it surrounds and encompasses all of the worlds equally. Again, the mashal in you, ratzon, will, tainug, pleasure, to makiftic powers of the soul that aren't clothed in your body, but they power everything that you do. They're the vitality behind everything that you do, but they're not the direct act. The direct act is seeing, speaking, moving, thinking, which are shaykh to the powers of the soul that are clothed in particular limbs in the body and express themselves in particular ways, which we learned about. Right? Sight in the eyes, hearing in the ears. Those are all mashalim, those are all parables for Or Mamale. Just like the neshama fills the body, so God fills the world. So too Chazal say. Right? Okay. That's why it's not so difficult to understand. Mamale is not something difficult to understand because we experience it in our own lives. Now again, there is a major difference. I've said this once, so 2 or 3 times. I'll say it a 4th time because it has to be understood. There's a major difference between the way the neshama connects to the body and HaKadosh Baruch Hu connects to the world. What's the major difference? The neshama is not the source of the existence of the body. It simply gives vitality to the body. When the neshama leaves the body, the body's there. It doesn't stop existing. It just has no vitality. It's not alive. The eyes don't see, the mouth doesn't speak, because eyes don't see and mouths don't speak. Souls see and souls speak. How do souls see in physicality? They clothe the energy of sight in something called an eye and the optical nerves in the optical center of the brain, and the person sees. So when the soul leaves, they stop seeing. Nothing happens to the, sooner or later, I understand it disappears. But the eye, the optical nerves, they're all there. The brain, it's all still there. There's just no vitality. Whereas were godly energy to disappear from the world, then the world would cease to exist. It's not that the world wouldn't have vitality, it would have no existence. There's a rather major difference, but it's still a wonderful mashal to help us understand, a wonderful parable to help us understand how God powers the world. And Sefer. That's what it means. You were created b'tselem Elokim. You were created in the image of God. Mipsari echza Eloka, the Eov says, if I look at my flesh, I see God. In other words, by understanding ourselves, we understand things about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us in such a way that we can understand Him by understanding ourselves. Right? Not understanding ourselves in some sort of touchy-feeling way. Understanding ourselves in terms of understanding how we work. Right? So the Eibishter did it that way. Why did the Eibishter create physical light the way He created physical light? So you and I will have a mashal for godly light. We've used it how many times? Amnam's colorful book is here. We're not even there. I just feel like picking it up and doing it. Shanim shakor seviv kolamim shavin abshavos b'chinas sev makif keilalam b'shava. Ve'im kain. If so, me'ir, it shines gam lamata, also below, down here in this world, k'meishu lamayla, like it is above. V'zeu, and now back to the first thing we said in this paragraph, in the first chapter, which we said was going to be the sort of headline of the whole Maamer and explain to us what our avodah is all about. V'zeu, and this is va'asu li mikdash, make for me a mikdash. Do those things that connect you to holiness, which are called iskafia and ishafcha. Do those things in avodah that elevate you and illuminate you. And what will happen? V'shachanti b'seichem, I will dwell in them. I will dwell in you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. You will become sensitive to me. I'll become part of your conscious reality if you do those things that allow me in. But if you keep focusing on those things that are contrary to my existence, so then you're not going to have a very powerful relationship with me. Because you're pushing me away all the time. V'zeu v'asali mikdash v'shachanti b'seichem. B'seich kol echad ve'echad. In each and every one. Right? That was the drasha that we saw. V'asali mikdash v'shachanti b'seichem. B'seichoi leinem. It doesn't say, build for me a mikdash, build for me a sanctuary, and I'll dwell in it. It says, build for me a sanctuary, and I'll dwell in them. So what's that in Aveda? Do the Aveda of mikdash. What's that? Iskaf and isafcha. Open yourself up to godliness, and He will dwell in you. That's what God says to us. I will dwell in you. B'seich kol echad v'echad. Al yedei how? Al yedei aveda de bechinas iskafia v'ishavcha chashucha l'nahara. Through the aveda of transforming, of subduing and transforming darkness to light. Hine, now the Rebbe says it again. Nasa yisrei na'or, a greater light. And its simple pshat is, what's that greater light? Sovev. The istalek yikr dekucha bricha b'chul almin. It goes out, the glory of HaKadosh Baruch in all the worlds. Shemeir umizgala, that it shines and is revealed, are hasovev. Okay. Now, one point before we're going to read the Kitzur, then I'm going to give you this, and please take one and pass it along. And this is our Rebbe's part of it. It's one ois of our Rebbe's first Maamer.
What was the estelek? Last long line. The middle. The estelek.
Istalek, it goes out. Kadiskafia sitra achre, istalek, it goes out. Yikr de kuchabrichu, the glory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in all the words. Okay? What did we say was a mashal for Sovev in you?
Will.
Ratzon. Right.
I know.
Okay. Yefeh. When you do iskafia, what are you connecting to? Simply, what are you connecting to? Hashem. Okay. Let's say more specific. What you're saying is true, but let's be more specific. What aspect of Hashem? Well, okay, that's not.
Because you're making it fine.
Absolutely not. We just said Iskafi is all about Sovev. We just spent 25 lines saying that. So why not say that? I'll listen to the Rebbe. I think he's right. Okay. What aspect of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is it that you're trying to stay connected to by not doing Averas and doing mitzvahs? What's that called? His? Is that called his will? Isn't that called his will? I mean, isn't that? Am I saying something wrong? God's will? Isn't that what it's called? God's ratzon, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, what's that? Sovev, right? Oh, isn't that Sovev? What's the mashal for powers of Sovev in you?
Vitality.
Powers of the soul in you. What's the mashal for the powers of the soul in you that are too powerful to be clothed in the body and therefore act, so to speak, in a superconscious way? Will and pleasure. Okay, will. Ratzon. Right? We'll use the word that God uses, ratzon. Right? Ratzon. We don't have to translate it anymore. We know what it means. Right? You weren't born knowing what will means either. You figured it out. When you figured it out, you were still making in diapers. So you're probably smart enough to figure out what ratzon means. Right? Because you're no longer in diapers. I think you're a little smarter than you were when you learned how to speak English. Some of you. Some of you learned how to speak English as adults. Right? Most of the people in this room learned how to speak English as young children. So when you were that dumb, you learned how to speak English, you can certainly learn certain Hebrew words now. And the more you use them and stop using English words, the faster you'll learn them. The more you decide, no, I'm just going to hold on to English until I float out to sea on a piece of wood. Okay, say this. I'll float out to sea on a piece of wood. Speaking English. Help, and no one speaks English anymore. Right, so you're not going to get anywhere. So, Tazorli! Someone heard you. Baruch Hashem. Always a good idea once you hear a word, use the word in Lashon HaKodesh. Why? Because it's a technical term. Right? I think if you went to a doctor and he talked to you about the thing that goes boom, 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 boom in your chest, you'd probably think you might want to go to another doctor. Right? He probably has a technical term for it. Now, we all know that technical term. It's called the heart, right? We all know that. Okay, what about the things that come out of the heart, the veins and the arteries and the names in the aorta and all that thing like that? If he doesn't know those technical terms, what would you think of him as a doctor? He's not a doctor. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this guy. Okay, so same thing in Yiddish. I don't understand. Ratzon is a technical term. Okay, in Lashon HaKodesh. So we'll use it, Ratzon. We know it now. Tainug, pleasure, tainug. Okay. So your Ratzon is a power that's too powerful to be clothed in your body and powers your body equally, and it's a mushal for or Sevev. Oh, well, interestingly enough, when you do Iskafi and Ishafka, what aspect of godly reality are you connecting to? Sevev, which is his Ratzon. Oh, b'diuk, beautiful. You're revealing his Ratzon in Elam Hazeh. Beautiful. The ultimate chayis, the ultimate vitality of it all. Why does what's the true source of everything that exists? God wants it to. Why? I don't know. That's not our issue. But he wants it to exist. Okay, so then it exists. So connect to that place. Okay, let's see the Kitzur, and then we'll see what our Rebbe has to say about this. Were there enough copies of our Rebbe's Maamer? Because we keep growing. One short. Sorry, so someone will have to look on and I'll make an extra one. Kitzur. Iker Shechina B'Tachtenim, the essence of the divine presence was revealed in this world. Yavar, he explains, the Kavanas Brias Eilamus, the ultimate purpose, intention of the creation of the world, Shiyeh Dira B'Tachtenim, that there should be a dwelling place for God in the lower realms. But that's not only the ultimate intention. The ultimate intention is that that's brought about through our avodah. And what is that avodah? Iskafia, subduing the sitra achra, and isavcha, transforming the sitra achra. Shemamshich erd hasevev, which draws down unlimited, infinite godly light. Shezeu, and that level of light is b'chulam and b'shav in all the worlds equally. Okay. Now, as we said, okay, if you go to that piece of paper I just gave you, that piece of paper is Chapter 4 of our Rebbe's first Maamer. Okay, as we said, that
Why are you turning it off?
you want it on or off? What do you want?
I just want to turn off one. Going into mine.
Cold?
You
get a sweater. Wearing short sleeves.
I cannot see
Wearing
short
short sleeves and
shorts. Short sleeves and shorts, bro.
Sad.
Okay, so in Ois Daled, okay, so we're looking on page 196. You don't see Ois Daled. Okay, page 196. The paragraph begins with Hine. Hello? The paragraph begins with Vihine, okay? It's Ois Daled. It's the fourth chapter of our Rebbe's first Maamer. And as we said, starting from Yud Aleph Shvat, Tafshin Yud Aleph, the 11th day of Shvat in the year 5711. The Rebbe actually taught us much later in Shvat Tafshin Nun Beis. It took 41 years before the Rebbe let this one be revealed. Even though once you hear it, you go, oh, of course. But no one ever talked about this ever until Tafshin Nun Beis. 1992. So the Rebbe mentioned that our Rebbe's Nesias, our Rebbe's leadership began on the 11th day of the 11th month of the 11th year. The 11th day of Shvat, which is the 11th month in the year 5711. What's 11? One beyond revealed reality. Right? The level of Mashiach. Right? The level that will be revealed when Mashiach is revealed. Right? The 11th of the 11th of the 11th. So on that day, what did the Rebbe do? So first in the morning, the Chassidim came to the Rebbe and asked, the whole year the Rebbe had been asking, the Chassidim had been asking the Rebbe to become Rebbe, and he had said no. At one point he told them that if you keep bothering me, I'm going to go away and you'll never find me. Right? He said that. I'll just go away, you'll never find, we wouldn't have found him. The Rebbe doesn't want to be found, he would figure out a way not to be found. Right? We wouldn't have said, he said, I'll go away, just stop bothering me. The morning of Yud Shvat, Tafshin Yud Aleph, the first Yortzeit of the previous Rebbe. The previous Rebbe passed away the year before on Yud Shvat. The first Yortzeit. There was going to be a Farbrengen that night, right? Already, it was pretty clear that the Rebbe was accepting upon himself to be Rebbe at that Farbrengen by virtue of certain posters that the Rebbe allowed to be put out and certain announcements that were allowed to be put into the Yiddish newspapers in New York. But that being said, the Chassidim were still not 100% sure. In the morning of that day, the Chassidim came and brought what's called a Ksav Hiskashrus, a letter of connection to the Rebbe, saying, we accept you as our Rebbe and we're your Chassidim. When the Rebbe saw what it was, he threw it off the desk. Okay. So, there were mixed messages, there's no question. At the beginning of I was not there. I was not born yet. At the beginning of the Farbrengen, evidently a Chassid got up and said the Rebbe should reveal himself as Rebbe, should take upon himself to be Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, "Stop this narishkeit," youthful behavior. And then at a certain point, what happened? The Rebbe told him to sing the niggin that's sung before a Maamer, and the Rebbe said, I'm not sure there was even a niggin, and the Rebbe said a Maamer. Said a Maamer Chassidus. I know who says Maamer? Rebbeim. And the Chassidim were very, very excited, started dancing on the tables. There were relatively few people there. It was in the hundreds, not in the thousands that we're used to. Right? Lubavitch was small. When the Frierdiker Rebbe came to New York, I have a friend who lives in our neighborhood. Much older than me. He's 92, 93, 94. Laser Solomon. If anybody remembers Solomon's insurance agency on Kingston Avenue. So that was his, and then his sons took it over. I think it moved to Borough Park. So he grew up in Crown Heights. Not a Lubavitch family. Crown Heights was a religious neighborhood. All sorts of people. In the 50s, when the neighborhood, the character of the neighborhood began to change, everybody but Lubavitch left. The Rebbe wouldn't let the Lubavitchers leave. Everybody left to other safer neighborhoods, Flatbush. Some people moved to Borough Park. Right? So but the Lubavitchers stayed in Crown Heights, because the Rebbe said the Lubavitchers stay in Crown Heights. So his family left at that time, but they lived in Crown Heights. So his father took him to the docks when the previous Rebbe arrived in New York on the 9th day of Adar, 1940, escaping Europe. He was 9, 10, I don't know, something like that. Right? He's 85, so he's 95, he's about, right? So that was 85 years ago. Yeah, so something 8, 9, 10. So his father took him to the docks. He remembers going to meet the Frierdiker Rebbe at the boat in the docks in New York because the big tzaddik was coming out of Europe. So his father took him. He remembers his father getting phone calls to help make a minyan for the Frierdiker Rebbe. That they were short a person for a minyan, and his father would get a phone call and walk over to 770 and be mashlim a minyan for the Frierdiker Rebbe. There was no one there. Right? There was just no one there. Right? I mean, now but it was a tiny little thing. Right? Where were the Lubavitchers? Either they had died in Stalin's camps, or they were running away from Italy. That's what they were doing at that point. Right? There were still some in Russia. So it was a different world. So there were a few hundred people at the Rebbe's first Farbrengen, and the Rebbe Farbrengen said a Maamer. He said this Maamer, the Maamer that you have in front of you now. In Ois Daled, the Rebbe explained something very amazing. Now, we're going to go through it very slowly. We're not in a hurry. There's some ideas here you probably haven't run into. That's okay. That's how we learn things. The Rebbe has already quoted once all of the previous Rebbeim, explaining an idea called Iker Shechina, right? At the very beginning of the Maamer, Iker Shechina b'tachtonim haisa, that the essence of the divine presence is in the lower realms, right? At the beginning of the Maamer we're learning. The Rebbe explains that idea based on the Alter Rebbe, then the Mitler Rebbe, then the Tzemach Tzedek, then the Rebbe Marash, then the Rebbe Shab. And he's explaining an idea of his father-in-law, the sixth Rebbe, so he doesn't have to quote him because he's explaining him. Right? So all 5 Rebbeim. The Rebbe goes through all of the Rebbeim 3 times in the course of the Maamer. Twice, we're about to see the beginning of the second one. Twice explaining ideas in Chassidus, and the third time telling stories about the Avos Yisrael of each of the Rebbeim. And that includes the Frierdiker Rebbe. Right? In the first 2 parts where the Rebbe just explains an idea in Chassidus, so he's explaining an idea that the Frierdiker Rebbe is talking about, so he doesn't have to quote the Frierdiker Rebbe explaining that idea. It's all about explaining the Frierdiker Rebbe. So he quotes the Alter Rebbe, then the Mitler Rebbe, then the Tzemach Tzedek, then the Rebbe Marash, then the Rebbe Shab. showing very, very clearly that this is a continuation of everything that's been. Nothing new is happening. It's all just the same. And at the very beginning of the Maamer, the Rebbe talked about the seventh generation, which is our generation from the Alter Rebbe, and how all sevenths are dear. Now, if you look at the beginning of Hey, which you have on page 197, right? We're just going to see the first line. It says, "V'hine loy mi boy lashita shemevi admar tzemach tzedek." In Ois Hey, the Rebbe quotes the tzemach tzedek. In what we're going to read, the Rebbe is going to quote the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe, right? The first two Rebbeim. The third is quoted in Hey. We're not reading that. We're not going that far. But I just want you to know he's next. So we're going to see the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe in the paragraph we're reading. Okay, let's go back to V'hine. Rabbeinu Azaken, the Alter Rebbe. Right? That's what Rabbeinu Azaken means, the old Rebbe. Mevar Bazeh, he explains, Asher Tachlis Hishtalshlus, the ultimate purpose of the downward emanation of ha'olamis, of the worlds, v'yiridosam, and their descent, meaning descending from higher worlds to lower worlds, which we learned about in the first chapter that we just finished, where the Rebbe talked to us. He told us that relative to Or Mamale, there are higher levels and lower levels, and those four worlds were Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, right? And we learned about it. And if we do review, we'll remember it. Shertachlis ishtalshelis oilamis, v'yiridosam, Einai is not bishvil oilamis elyonim. It's not for the higher worlds, which are worlds of great revelation. And you would think that those worlds are greater worlds than our world, and so ultimately HaKadosh Baruch Hu would be more interested in the existence of those worlds, because after all, what great advantage do those worlds have over our world? Revelation. God's revealed there. Either in a complete and total way, that's Elam Atzilus, or in an incredibly powerful way, that's Elam Habriya, or in a more subtle way, but still revealed, and that's Elam HaYetzira, and we talked about it, right? Elam Habriya was the Coke bottle. Elam HaYetzira was the Sprite bottle. Elam Atzilus, the ice cup. Okay. Different levels of revelation, where the Kli hides a little more or less. Yosef brought an unbelievable cup for Elam Hazeh. Look at that. Can't see anything. Used to be in Elam Hazeh that we said that if you lift yourself up, you could see into the cup. But now Elam Hazeh has become so hidden that even if you lift yourself up, you can't see what's in there. It's new levels of concealment in Elam Hazeh. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. You should drink many wonderful liquids in good health from that cup.
Amen.
They should even taste good. Why not? It's not like you're the Alter Rebbe, you don't taste.
True.
Right? Okay. But the Eibush is not interested in the Elam Asilyonim. Meaning, if a Kadosh Baruch Hu, if the ultimate purpose of creation were the reality that exists in Elam Atzilus, and we learned about that, right? So we know that, right? That's an amazing thing to know about, but we learned about it, so now we know about it, right? That Elam Atzilus is a world where even the Kelim are godly. Spheres, 10 spheres. Mm-hmm. It's not a world of creation, it's the world of creator. Okay. If that's what the Eibishter wanted, so he would stop there. Light would have emanated down in all these amazing ways that godly light emanates down, and what happens? The first expression of light in some way that could be described as not infinite, it's hard to call it finite, right? But okay. Meaning there's 10 spheres. Now those 10 spheres are incorporated in each other so that they're in a state of absolute oneness, absolute unity, but there's still 10 of them. There's 10 revealed states of godly reality, and what allows God to be revealed in those 10 different ways are the 10 different kelim, which you and I call spheres. Okay, amazing. If that's what he wanted, so stop there. He didn't stop there. He went into a world called Elam Habriya, which is already created reality, not godly reality, created reality. But it's created reality that is completely bottled, that is completely and totally interested in revealing one thing and one thing only, its source, in godliness. That's bittul. Bittul is all about connection to source, revealing source, interested in source, as opposed to being interested in self. Right? Okay, so that was our. I mean, that cup down there. It's a little too purple. That bottle, right? That was our Coke bottle, right? Clear. The bottle is not Coca-Cola, but it's so clear it lets you see exactly what's in it, and in no way, shape, or form would you say, "Oh, the purpose of all this is the bottle holding the Coke." No, the purpose of all this is the stuff in it. Right? Okay. Whereas, and I'm not picking on Yosef, when you come down to this world. Someone might actually have 10 of these on their shelf and they never use them. Because it's just all about the kli. It's so nice, right? I mean, doesn't your grandmother, great-grandmother, my mother, right, have one of those bureaus, and on the bureaus are the saucers are against the wall, and the cup is on the right, the saucers is leaning against the wall of the bureau, and then there's the little china, the china cups, right? Fine china, right? Grandfather used to say all the time, "Hat nicht kein China, don't break me a tea kettle." Meaning, leave me alone. Stop bothering me. This kind of China. Stop bothering me. Right? Okay. The kalim that aren't about revealing anything or doing anything, they're just there to say, "Aren't I a beautiful kli?" That's Elam Hazeh. Right? That's really Elam Hazeh. There's no light. It's just the kli. Okay. Elam Yitzira, we said it was the Sprite bottle. A little more personality, or, personality is the wrong word because that makes personality sound negative. A little more of its own sense of self in the angel in Olam HaYetzirah, but he's still allowing the godly light that powers him to shine through. He's not hiding it. He's not hiding it like this cup. This cup is hiding anything in any. Did Yosef finish drinking or not? Anything in this cup? No one knows, right?
I'm not telling him.
Right. Okay. That's Elam Hazeh. That's what we said. So the purpose of it all is not the upper worlds where godliness is revealed in such an incredibly powerful way. Now the Rebbe gives this is the Alter Rebbe. The Rebbe is quoting the Alter Rebbe. Gives an unbelievable reason. It's amazing. Why? Hoyel v'lahem. That is because to them, Yerida, there is a descent, mi'or panav yisbarach, from higher, or panav, literally the light of his face, Hashem, but meaning it's a descent from a higher level of godly reality. Let's read 5 more words and then explain that. Ve'ef shar leimar, and it's impossible to say shakavonahu, that the ultimate intention of God in creating the world, who bishvil yerida, is for the sake of a descent. Oh. Okay, so there's 2 things that we have to understand. One we can already, one we can't yet. The one we can't yet is, the Rebbe, we don't understand how, but the Rebbe just said the upper worlds are a descent from a higher level. Therefore, they can't be the ultimate purpose of creation. We'll explain why that is in a minute. But wait a minute, this world isn't also a descent? Because we're going to say this world is the ultimate purpose, which it obviously is, because this is where he, so to speak, stopped and said, okay, now I have what I want. He said about this world, zetei, right? It's good. What's good? It's what I want. Okay. So how this world isn't a descent, I don't get. Okay, put that on the back burner. What does it mean those worlds are an ascent? So the Rebbe just taught us something really absolutely fascinating and astounding about revelation. What does revelation mean? You and I experience revelation. So an angel appears in front of us, and we see godly light emanating out of that angel, and we fall flat on our face. That seems to be, if you ever read Tanakh, that's what everybody does when they see an angel. They fall flat on their face. So don't think you'll be any different, right? It's like, those people who wouldn't have been slave owners 200 years ago because they said, I wouldn't have owned a slave 10 years ago. I'm an enlightened person. It's just those people. Let's tear down their statues because look at how terrible. If I lived there, you would also own a slave and you would have fallen on your face if an angel showed up, because that's what you do when angels show up. I don't know. And when it's 1782, you own slaves. Why? I don't know. That's what they did. All right? Okay. Fine. What's that angel saying? It's so interesting. When you experience the existence of that angel, when you experience the existence of that revelation, So you're seeing one state of reality, right? You're seeing the angel. But what's shining through the angel? The experience of the fact that this angel doesn't exist by virtue of himself, but rather is an expression of a higher level of godly reality that is his source. Because what is revelation all about? Revelation is all about the fact that you and I become aware of the source of something in godly reality. Right? Down here, what does it mean there's no revelation? When you look at this, and we'll see this, the Rebbe's going to talk about this at great length in what we're learning. When you look at this thing does not tell you where it comes from. All it tells you that it is. In no way, shape, or form does it reveal the true source of its being. It conceals the true source of its being. That's called hiddenness. If it were to reveal the true source of its being, what I would be aware of is not only existence on the level of this cup, I'd be aware of an existence on a level higher than the cup that is the source of the cup, right? Is that true? Yeah. That's what revelation is. Oh, so then relative to the light that is its source, what would this thing be?
Vessel.
A descent, right? Revelation is all, it's like so incredible. We think of revelation as and for us, it's very uplifting. I get it. But what are you experiencing? You're experiencing the revelation of the descent of godly light from a higher level to a lower level. So when I'm looking, again, this is an angel. I'm looking at the angel. What's the angel revealing to me? That it has a source in a higher level of godliness. Right? True? That's what it's saying to me. It's not hiding that from me. This thing is hiding that from me. This thing also has a source in a higher level of godliness. But he's a liar. He says, I am. No, you're not. God is. You're just an expression of that. No, look at me. You want me to bump into your nose and give you a bruise? And his cup could, my cup couldn't. And I just get the little bit of coffee left in it. All over me again. So we don't want to go there, right? My nose would beat this, right? I thank my mother for my nose, right? Okay. If you're going to have a kid with a big nose, make sure it's a boy. You can grow a mustache and it sort of gets hidden under there. You're going to have a kid with those big, floppy ears that stick out like this, make it sure it's a girl. She'll have long hair and no one will see it. Just work it out that way and everything will be fine. A girl with a big nose, there's nothing hiding it. A boy with those ears, also nothing hiding it. So you gotta be careful about these things. Right? You just have to ask God. Okay, God, big ears, fine, make it a girl. Big nose, make it a boy. Right? Big brain, doesn't matter. It can be either one. Okay. So revelation is all about light descending into the place that I'm experiencing. But what I'm experiencing is the expression of the descent of godly light from a higher place to a lower place. It's amazing, right? I mean, I would never think of revelation that way, but that's what it is. It's what it's all about. That this isn't what is. There's something beyond this, and this is revealing that. It's not hiding it, it's revealing it. That's revelation. So revelation, all those worlds of revelation, we talked about it. Tzilis, Bria, Yetzira, 3 worlds of revelation. They are a Yerida from a higher level. In a revealed way. That's exactly what they revealed to me. They say, I'm not it. There's something beyond me that is more it than me. That's revelation. I'm it. That's concealment. All right? True? Does that make sense? So that's what the Rebbe just said, which is an amazing line. Unbelievable. So the Alter Rebbe says that those worlds can't be this purpose of existence because they're worlds of revelation. And worlds of revelation, by definition, are a descent from a higher place. And it can't be that the world's all about an ascent, a descent. God isn't interested in less of him. Up there, now we have to start using words that we might know, we might not know, but that's okay. There are 3 different levels of reality, only 3. Everything that exists falls into one of these 3 categories. And we'll give the technical terms for it, and then we'll talk about how it expresses itself. Kalim, or etzim. 3 words in Lashon HaKodesh they have to know. Kalim or etzim. What's kalim? Finite reality. differentiated finite reality. That's what Kalim allow for, right? I'm not picking up Amnon's book for a change, okay? But what allows for all those colors is the Kli allows for the light that is colorless before it hits his book to express itself in all sorts of different colors. Okay. Kalim.
How do you spell that? Is it
Chaf Lamed Yud Mem. What are we erasing over there? Is it Hebrew? Is it Hebrew lessons? I never feel bad. Not that I think Hebrew lessons are bad. I just feel bad erasing. I feel bad erasing the master plan. That makes me nervous. Fast days. Let's do away with that. Okay? Etzem, we're starting from the top. Etzem, or Kli or Kali, vessel, light, essence. Okay? 3 different levels of reality. 3 different levels of godly reality, but 3 different levels of reality. What are Kalim responsible for? Finitude. What's Or? Infinite. What's Etzem? Beyond both. Right? One of the most wonderful and exciting things that Chassidus teaches us at the very beginning of our trek in Chassidus is don't be fooled by the fact that God is infinite. He's not. He's beyond infinite. He's not limited by infinite in any way, shape, or form. Infinite's limited. It can't be finite. God can. Okay? So God's not infinite. God's beyond infinite. What's that level of God beyond infinite? It's called Etzem, the essence of God. What's the essence of God? Well, if I were to describe the essence of God, I'd be doing something that no one can do. But what can we say about the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? And the Rebbe is going to actually say it in a few lines. What we can say about the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is that it just is. It's absolute being. It's what's called Yesh Amiti, true being. Now, true being, what's unique about true being? It doesn't rely on anything else for its existence. It exists by virtue of itself, which is very hard for you and I to understand because nothing that we experience does that. Okay. But the Abishah didn't come from anywhere. Godly light, every level of godly light has a source in a level beyond it. That's what we just learned. Every level of godly light has a source of a higher level of light, or if you're talking about the highest level of light, the first aspect of godly revelation that came out of the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what's its source? What's called the Ma'or, the luminary, the essence. Right? Sunlight. Sunlight has a source. In what? The sun. Right? Does the sun have a source? Well, okay, yes, of course, God created it, right? But in terms of sunlight, does sun have a source? No, it's just there. We know God put it there, right? It's not just there. Okay, but in terms of it's sun or sunlight. Sunlight emanates from the sun and has a source in the sun, and by definition has a source in the sun. A more obvious source, a less obvious source, a closer source, a farther source. Okay, but we know that the light doesn't exist if there's no sun. What about the sun? Okay, in that model, the sun just is. There's a sun. Okay, but the sun did come from somewhere. The Abishah created the sun. What about the Abishah? Anybody create the Abishah? Nope. Just is. Where'd he come from? He didn't. Why is he there? No reason. What's his purpose? Doesn't have purpose. Well, what does he do? He doesn't do anything. Well, what was before him? Nothing. Well, where did he come from? He didn't. It's just there. Why is he there? It just is. Well, who put him there? No one put him there. Just there. Well, where did he come from? He didn't. Why did he show up? He didn't show up. Well, why didn't he show up? Completely and totally impossible to understand why in the world there's this being called God. And when you say that, you're talking about Etzem, the essence of God. Or, why is there godly light? Because God wants there to be. Why does God want there to be? The real reason? Because he wants a dwelling place in the lower realms down here. Why does he want a dwelling place in the lower realms? I don't know. But you can't go ask his mother because he doesn't have it. There's an aspect of godliness that's completely, totally beyond our understanding, and about that level, the Zohar says, Leis machshava tfisa beichlal. No thought can comprehend him at all. Godly light, we can comprehend godly light. We were talking about the difference between Sevev and Mamale. Mamale, we have Masholim in our own existence for Mamale. Sight, speech, hearing. We have all sorts of Masholim for Or Mamale. If you don't know what Or Mamale is, there's something wrong with you. Learn what Or Mamale is. What's the problem? It's not hard. Oh, but it's God and I can't understand. Don't be silly. Of course you can understand. He gave you all sorts of ways to understand certain aspects of him. What can't we understand? Him himself. That is completely beyond our ability. Because what does that mean? There's something that exists by virtue of itself. Everything has a source in something else. That's just, look around. That's the way the world works. No. Einstein. Einstein was a pretty smart guy. He wasn't as smart as my 3-year-old grandchildren until in his later life he came to appreciate the existence of God. Until then, he wasn't smart enough to do that. So my 3-year-old grandchildren are smarter than him. Okay. But then he got smart. Why did he get smart? He fought the Big Bang Theory when it first came out. But then he realized that the Taka explains a lot of phenomena, evidently. I don't know enough about physics to explain one way or the other. Okay. But what was his problem with the Big Bang Theory? Someone has to make it go bang. God. So once he accepted that, he said, okay, there must be a God. And then he said, God doesn't play dice with the universe or whatever. He started using God in it was part of his lexicon. Okay. Wasn't there for a long time. Okay, he got smart. Didn't get smart. He was always smart. He just started using his intellect the right way. Okay, so all of a sudden he came to this realization there's a God. Why? Because things don't just happen. They've got to come from somewhere. What's the problem that a guy like Einstein has with God? Well, it doesn't make sense. Right. Yeah. Can't figure him out. Right. Can't figure him out. You're not going to have some unified theory that's going to help you figure out God. No such thing. So, leis machshava tfisa beichlal, and that bothers a lot of people. Because it's also it's michayev. It's obligating. If there's a God, then I'm obligated to act a certain way because things actually matter. If there's no gods, then it doesn't matter. I can do whatever I want. Right? So actually, there's an amazing letter of the Rebbe relative to the events in Europe 80 years ago, where the Rebbe says that by definition, the fact that those events bother people means they believe in God. So why would those events cause them to not believe in God? Because if there's no God, why would those events bother people? So people can do whatever they want and act however they want, and there's no restrictions and no limitations, and so people can do anything. So why in the world is incinerating 6 million people problematic? If you can justify it morally based on human intellect, so then, which they did, and they were very smart, the Germans, greatest philosophers in the world, right? So what's the problem? Rabbi writes this in a letter to someone. It's an amazing letter. What's the problem? So the Rebbe said there's this interesting dichotomy, that the question that bothers people most about God is based on the existence of God. Because if there's no God, then there's no evil. You do whatever you want. What difference does it make? There's no absolutes. That's what's happening in the world now, right? You do whatever you want. What difference does it make? So then why are you bothered? You don't, I understand if they're trying to do it to you, you're not so happy, so you'll fight back. I get it. But on some objective level, you're going to define this as improper. Why? I don't understand. I'll tell you why it's perfectly reasonable. Right? They're genocidal. Let's get rid of them. They do genocide, so let's kill them all. Oh, that's an interesting position, isn't it? Let's call for genocide against those people who do genocide. That's an interesting position. Okay, but that's what's out there now, right? Perfectly reasonable, so to speak, I guess. Right? It was all based on falsehood, I understand, but okay, but such an amazing line that the Rebbe says. Right? So that's why the existence of God is somewhat annoying, because it demands that there must be some purpose to it all, and if there's a purpose to it all, that obligates me to act within the context of that purpose, and I can't do whatever I want. But I want to do whatever I want. Well, okay, Boker Tov, you're an adult now. Can't do whatever you want. Right? Well, I could create a system where I can, and people have, and people do. Right? But you have to write God out of that system. Because as soon as he's there, then I'm obligated. But him being there is a huge step, because ultimately, if God is just the creator of the world, so okay, but say there, so someone created the world. How that all happens, I don't really think anywhere past that, and don't understand it in any more sophisticated way than that. There's a God, he created the world, and that's that. Okay, but say, where'd that God come from? Don't know. But then you come to the conclusion that he didn't, and that's really quite astounding. And that's etzem. That's what Chassidus calls atzmusa yizbarach. What emerges from that? Infinite light, which is not that, because it has a source. That infinite light emanates downward and ultimately is processed so that it can clothe itself in finite vessels and therefore bring about differentiated reality that you and I experience, ad kedei kach, to such an extent that you can actually have a physical world with, for all intents and purposes, an infinite amount of stuff. And as a matter of fact, they say, I don't know what this means exactly. I mean, neither do they, but they say it, and I'm not picking on them, meaning they understand that they don't understand what this means, that somehow the world is infinitely expanding into itself, whatever that means, like sort of bending into itself, right? All that starlight that comes this way, well, it's also going that way, right? At 186,000 miles per second. So where's it going? So somehow they say it sort of bends. What's that mean? Bends back into itself? I don't know. Okay. The mysteries of creation are many. Okay, but this world is still a finite world, right? Even though you can't get to the end of it. Going a spaceship up there, you're not going to get to the end of it because it doesn't seem to have an end. But it's still finite, which is sort of funny. Okay, so where does that come from? Ultimately, from a place beyond infinite and beyond finite, called etzem. Where does that come from? It doesn't. It's just there. What's its purpose? Doesn't have one. Where did it come from? Didn't. Why is it there? Stays. That's the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So now the Rebbe is going to explain to us, we won't see it today, we'll see it tomorrow, B'ez Hashem. The Rebbe is going to explain to us the advantage of this world over all other worlds, right? And that's going to be the choshech, the darkness of this world has an advantage over all of the other worlds, and it's for that reason that up there in the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when so to speak, and you have to say so to speak about everything you ever say about the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, up there in etzem, when up there in the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'd like a dwelling place in the lower realms. Why he said that, we don't know. Okay, but he said that. Somehow this world is the place where that dwelling place happens, and that means, interestingly enough, what aspect of God said, I would like a dwelling place in the lower realms? Where did that desire come from? Etzem. So who's I, so to speak? No, don't say that. That's not right. Who's I? Etzem. Right? Oh. And where is Etzem evidently revealed? Because it says, I want a dwelling place in the lower realms. I want to be revealed in the lower. Where's that?
This world.
Evidently this world. How's that work? That's what the Rebbe is going to teach us tomorrow.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah.